Alright, in this video I'm going to show you how to use scale in the cs1graphics library using Python. Now, I actually broke scale down into two videos because scale can be completely different depending on where the reference point is for something. Now, on stuff like circles, squares, and rectangles, they're all in the center. But if you want different effects from using scale, you need to adjust the reference point. Now in this first video, I'm just going to show you the very simple ways to scale an object, and at least this way you can jump right into it. But first I'm going to import the cs1graphics library, so from cs1graphics import all. Now I'm going to go ahead and work with loops to show you this stuff. You do not have to put all of this stuff in a loop, but I think it's actually a little easier to show you the effects of it from a loop. So we need to do from time, and we want to import all. Now you could just import sleep if you wanted, but because it does make the program run faster, but in these very simple programs you're never actually gonna see the difference. Alright, and now we're gonna create a canvas. I'm gonna name it paper, and we can just set it to the default of 200 200. I'll go ahead and pull this up. Alright, and the next thing we want to do is go ahead and just set a center point, because I'm actually going to work with two different things here. Well, I'm going to go ahead and set a center point. I'm going to name it center point, and I'm going to set this point as 100 100, so basically that is the center. Alright, now the next thing we want to do, we want to create our circle that we're going to scale. So I'm actually going to just name this C. And now we'll create our circle. We want a radius of 20. And we want to go ahead and put it at center point. So we will put it at center point. Alright, and next, just so we have some color in it, we're going to go ahead and set the fill color. And I'm just going to go ahead and set mine to black. Alright, and the next thing we're going to want to do is go ahead and add our circle. Alright, now, the next thing we want to go ahead and do is I'm going to actually show you scale. Now, there's two ways we can do this. First way, I'll just go ahead and show you without a loop. What you're going to want to do is the name of your object you want to scale, which is C, dot scale. Now, let's say you wanted to make it bigger. Well, 1 would be exactly the same. If I hit 1 right now, it wouldn't do anything to it. Now, if I do 1.2, it's actually going to make it a little bit bigger. Now, if I were to do something like 0.8, it's obviously going to make it a little bit smaller. But just to show you the first time, I'll go ahead and do 1.2, which will make it just a little bit bigger. And if we watch it, it just gets just a tiny bit bigger. Now, what I'll go ahead and do now is I'll show you an actual loop so you can see it get bigger. And we'll go ahead and set our variable equal to 0. And I'm just going to do this twice. I'll set while x is less than 2. And we'll go ahead and set up our loop. We want our circle named C to scale by 0.8, which means it's going to get smaller twice. Now I'll go ahead, and this is where the sleep comes in, I'll go ahead and have it sleep for 0.8 of a second. That way we can see a little bit of a difference in each time. And we'll go ahead and set our x equals to x plus 1 so we don't get our infinite loop. Now if you go ahead and watch my graphics canvas, you'll see it gets smaller twice. And see it gets smaller 2 times. Okay, now the next thing we want to do, let's say we want to make it a little bit bigger. So it works the same way. You'll go ahead and set x equals to 0 again, and you'll say while x is less than 2, you'll go ahead and say I want my circle to scale. We'll do it 1.2 this time. Well, you know what? We'll even do it a little bit bigger. We'll go 1.4. And again, we'll let it sleep for 0.8 of a second. We'll set our x equals to x plus 1. Now when I do it, you'll see a bigger difference. And see now that it got bigger. Now, one other thing is basically squares work the same way. So to go ahead and get rid of our circle now, I'll go ahead and do the name of our canvas, which is paper, and I want to remove C, which is my circle. We'll go ahead and get rid of that. We'll go ahead and create a square now. Now, well, I'm going to do a rectangle. That way you can see something other than just a uniform shape. So I'm just going to set this to R, and I'm going to make my rectangle, and I'm going to make it 40 wide by 20 high. And I'm going to go ahead and set my center point to, of course, center point. Now, we'll go ahead and give it some color. We'll do dot set fill color. Go ahead and do black again. And then we are going to want to add our rectangle. Now you see we got a rectangle there. Now this time I'm going to show you a big difference. I'm going to go ahead and set our x equals to 0 again. And I'm going to do, well, x is less than 5 this time. We'll set our loop. And I want my rectangle named R to scale, and I want to make it bigger. I'm going to go ahead and make it I want it to scale 1.4 each time, which means basically 4/10 bigger. Remember, 1 is just the neutral. That's where if you press 1 and tell it to scale by 1, it's not going to change at all. Now we'll go ahead and have it sleep. Now this time we're just going to get more of a dramatic effect. I'll have it sleep for 3/10 of a second. And as usual, do our x equals x plus 1, so we don't have our infinite loop. And if you go ahead and watch my graphics canvas now, when I hit enter, it grows 5 times, and you see it get bigger each time. And that's the end of this video, and in the next video I will actually show you guys what the difference of a reference point can make when you're doing a scale.